I do not want to have to paint this antique washstand. I love antiques to be in their original wood form, but this black spot on top is really going to be the determining factor. If I can get this out, we can sand it down and stain it and keep it this wood look. If not, we might have to paint. My name is Sarah, and I like to take things that are ugly and beat up or pulled out of the trash and make them beautiful again. Welcome to my channel. This piece is pretty rustic, and while I enjoy a rustic piece, this is almost, I should be in a garage workspace rustic, not I could be a nice piece of furniture in your home. So it's going to need some cleaning and some sanding and some TLC, but I think we can embrace the rusticness of the piece, yet clean it up and make it beautiful for just a nice little accent piece of furniture for my home. I actually want to try to keep this. So I'm going to clean it up, vacuum it out because it's been sitting in my garage for, I don't know, a year maybe, and wipe it down with some simple green and take off my hardware. First thing I'm going to do to try to spruce this up is get rid of this foamy glue that is used. I have yet to figure out what glue this is, but I keep seeing it on furniture pieces. I don't own glue like this, but I'm just using my wood chisels. I figured this would be a nice, easy way to just kind of gently, because this does scuff the wood if I push too hard, just kind of pop that excess glue off, and I think it turned out pretty good. Now that everything is clean, it's time to sand. I'm starting with a 100 grit sandpaper, and I'm just using that on the drawer face. It's a big solid piece of wood, and I really want to knock it down. The insides, I will come back and do a 220 grit sanding to see if we can't get rid of some of those stains. And then the whole piece is getting sanded with 100 grit sandpaper. And this is my first attempt at getting rid of this black spot. We'll see if sanding will take it out. So after sanding everything down, sides, inside, back side, everything got sanded down with 100 grit sandpaper, this is what we're at. And that black spot looks a lot better. But then I had to come in and hand sand everything too. So at this point, I'm just sanding off the old finish, which this is old, so it's sanding off very easily, which I like that. And the old stain. So we're removing all of that. So once everything got sanded with 100 grit sandpaper, I went in with 120 and repeated all of those steps with 120, even the hand sanding. So everything got sanded well, and then the black was still there. So at this point, before moving on to the 220 grit sandpaper, I want to use oxalic acid and try to bleach this out. Now, instructions say to re-lather or recoat every 10 minutes. So you start off in the dark areas that you want to bleach, and then you spread the oxalic acid to all other areas. I'm only doing this on the top. I did not do it on the rest of the piece, figuring it wouldn't bleach it too bad that I would need to bleach the whole piece so it matches, because you don't want like white wood on top and brown wood on the rest. So I re-layered this 3 times before I let it fully dry. And while that was drying, that's when I came in and with the 220 grit sandpaper, sanded down the drawer inside portions. I just want to remove stain, and honestly, I don't want to have to do the gradient to start at 100, 120, 180, 220 grit sandpaper. I just want to sand the drawer once. I honestly don't like sanding drawers. So that's why I'm doing 220 grit, and 220 can take care of a lot of mess. So I was okay with that. I did need to come in and use the oxalic acid on the inside of the drawer as well, because I wanted to remove some staining that I saw in there. And just as the top, I did 3 layers consecutively before I let it completely dry. And then when oxalic acid is dry, you want to wipe it down with a wet towel. And if you're going to stain, you want to use a little baking soda in the water to help remove any residue so you have a clean surface to start with. While the oxalic acid was drying, I did go inside and boil the handles in some vinegar water to scrub them up and clean them up. The one on the left, I've already scrubbed. It kind of just took away some of the top coat, I think. Maybe it's cleaning it, I don't know. And the one on the right, I haven't touched yet. But I like it. I like it more of a bronzy color than the dark color, so I'm okay with that. Now, a drawer stop was missing, to stop the drawer from going too far inside. So I took a little scrap piece of wood that I had. This is actually red oak that I have, and I think this might be maple wood. I'm not sure. If you know what kind of wood this is, feel free to put that in the comments. But I just had to cut this little sliver piece of wood and then glue it down to replace the missing drawer stop. It was a little tricky because there was nothing to hold it in place, and I just kind of eyeballed it and glued it in. There were also some kind of, splintered pieces, like the wood edge had splintered up, and I needed to glue that down, and that was a little tricky, and it took a couple tries, but with some tape and patience, I was able to get that glued down just fine. Now, for the cracks on top, because they were quite large and I didn't want to take this completely apart, if you saw my antique desk flip video, you saw that I took that piece completely apart, and that took me 6 months to get the gumption up to fully finish, and I did not want that for this project. I just wanted to strip it down and refinish it. So I sanded out those cracks on the top as best I could and hope that when I do the polyurethane on top that it would kind of fill it in and not make it look gross and be kind of clean. I chose not to stain this piece, and I wanted to do a wash, but on the back I did a couple test runs to see how thick to do the wash to get it to the right tone, because I wanted it to be a similar brown to what it was before I sanded everything off. But I wanted to do a wash because I thought it would help hide any leftover black on the top over doing a stain. And you can tell me at the end if you think it worked out or not. But I really liked the light color, but I went with the wash to try to help hide that black. Now, with the wash, I just paint it on and then wipe off the excess. And you can do that with any color, actually. If you saw my recent sideboard flip, you see that I did a wash with green. So here's how it looks like with the wash on it. I think it makes it look very uniform. Some might say maybe too uniform. Maybe it's lost a little character, but it was kind of what I was going for. And you can see on the top, it hides that black pretty well. It's still there, but we're embracing the rustic, so I think this is fine. It's not going to be a shiny, snazzy new piece of furniture. It's rustic. Now, I did a light sanding because with that wash, it's going to raise up the grain on the wood. So I did a light sanding to smooth everything down and then went in with my polyurethane. Now, I have never had this happen. I've had poly issues, but this time, I think my top wasn't completely dry, or maybe I didn't wash off the oxalic acid properly, but the poly dried white. Thankfully, the rest of the piece, it dried fine. The back had a little bit of spots that wasn't so nice, but that was easy to sand down, and the back is not really that important. Nobody's going to see it. I just want it to be clean. So I went in with my 220 grit sandpaper and sanded the poly off, which is not a huge deal, but it did put a lot of white stuff in cracks, and I just took my little, it's like a dental pick, and I scraped up as much as I had patience to do. I figured the brown wash, because I was going to have to brown wash again, would cover most of the white left over that I couldn't get out. And it's funny, to do a second brown wash to match a previous brown wash is a little bit of a challenge to get the ratio right. But I think I did okay. I think it looks pretty much the same. So, had to go in and do the poly top coat again. I did 3 coats on everything. The inside of the drawer, I do not put a poly top coat. I did Howard Feed and Wax to just revive the wood, but keep it raw. And then I put my hardware on, and y'all, we are ready to see this piece. I thought I was going to be done, but originally this had casters on it, and I thought it would be okay without casters, but I decided it was too short. It kind of looked funky. So I ordered me some casters, and when they came in the mail, I put them on, and I thought it would be super simple. You just drill a hole, put in the brace, and then you put the caster in. Well, drilling the right size hole is a bit of a challenge. I thought I did it right, but then I couldn't get my casters all the way in, and I tried different things, pushing really hard, hammering it, flipping it right side up, sitting on it, wouldn't get in. I realized I didn't drill my holes deep enough, So even with the caster insert still in, I was able to fix some of the holes. And eventually, between drilling the holes a little deeper and banging really hard with a rubber mallet, I was able to get 2 out of the 4 in properly. The other 2 were loose because the hole was too big from previously. So all I had to do was take some toothpicks and some wood glue and stick them down in the hole in with the caster. And I'm just going to let it dry like that. And it felt tight. And I think we're good. I, for a moment, thought these casters are not going to work, but they did. So I was really excited because it looks so cute with those casters because that's how it's made to be. It's supposed to be there. So let's look back at where we started, our rough rustic piece that we weren't sure if we were going to be able to salvage, if that black spot was going to be the death of this piece and have to be painted. But we got it out, and this is a gorgeous piece, a rustic statement piece that will last for years to come. Enjoy the final reveal. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you in my next video.